Aloha, everybody. Welcome to the Hawaiiverse podcast, a podcast that supports local by guilt buying something from the farmer's market because you accidentally made eye contact with one of the vendors. I'm your host, Kamaka Diaz, and our guest today is pretty familiar with local markets. So familiar that she even created one, specifically to support Native-Hawaiian businesses. Our guest today is a successful entrepreneur, business owner, wife and mother of two, and former teacher. Although she is not teaching in the classroom anymore, she is educating others by setting an example on what supporting local can really look like when done right. This mompreneur is a dedicated Hawaiian that is looking to better our community starting from the ground up. She is the owner and founder of Mahina Made and Ho'omau Hawai'i Market. She sounds amazing, and I am sure she is amazing. And I am so stoked to talk to her today. Her name is Kailee Freitas. Aloha, Kylie. Welcome to the podcast.
Aloha, Kamaka.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. That was an amazing introduction.
Yeah.
I hope I can live up to that.
I'm sure you will. So I just have to say that the market you put on a couple weeks ago was amazing. I was so impressed. I went there and I knew I had to meet whomever organized it. So I reached out to you and I'm just like, get on our podcast right now.
Oh my gosh. I mean, thank you for coming. What day did you come?
I came on a Saturday.
Oh, so that day was crazy. And I mean, so this was our second market, and the first one we did in June was just as busy, which I think everybody, especially me, was like totally caught off guard because it's a first event, you know, so I just feel like people are kind of trying to feel it out. So, yeah. I mean, we expected people, but to have that many, you know, I think it just speaks like volumes to what that means.
Yeah, well, I know the local community and, you know, people visiting, they love these local farmers market. They love to be able to see these vendors with these cool, creative products and, you know, doing really cool things. And, you know, I'm very selective with whom I choose to be on the podcast. But like I just said, I was so impressed. That was probably my favorite market that I've been to.
Oh, awesome.
I think one, because it was a lot of new vendors that I haven't seen before. Some people that I actually knew, which was cool. But it was specifically curated to promote Native Hawaiian businesses, right?
Right, exactly.
Yes, and that's what I loved about it.
And that was like when I was thinking about when I was like first thinking about the market and how I wanted to do it and what I wanted it to represent. I wanted something that was different because I think like how you're saying, the support local movement is so huge right now, which is awesome. Especially during COVID, I feel like everybody just came together and is like, you know, we're going to spend the dollars that we do have, put it back into our local economy. And it's just been so awesome. And as an extension of that, I wanted to further support these local businesses, but in a different way than kind of what's already out there. And I think we have a few local markets that are amazing, like how you're saying, like farmers markets and other things that support local businesses in general. But I just wanted one just for like Native Hawaiians, you know, and not necessarily Native Hawaiian owned businesses, which is, I mean, although that is majority of the market, I just wanted just a Hawaiian space.
Yeah, and I think I really felt that vibe. And I'm not hating on other markets because, like you said, there are some amazing ones. And, you know, just because you're not from Hawaii or you're not Hawaiian doesn't mean your stuff isn't good. But just I feel like I connect more to that, like the people who are Native Hawaiian and making these products with like Olelo Hawaii on it.
Yeah.
I feel more connected to that because I am a Native Hawaiian and I grew up, you know, in a Hawaiian household and all of that.
Yeah, and it just shows like a different side of Hawaii, you know? I mean, I love the local market.
The real side, and that's the key.
Yeah.
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 Not those touristy aloha shirts or whatever it is.
And so I had to put it in Waikiki, you know, to like, you know, spread all that out.
That was intentional.
Very intentional,
I love
yes.
that.
Pretty much everything about the market. I mean, I like the little things in life. That's just what I love, the small details.
Yeah.
And so everything was just so intentional. And I think that attributes to success, right?
Yeah.
And you're very intentional in what you do.
Yeah. And I think Hawaiians, you know, inherently are intentional.
Yes.
Everything has meaning. You know, in one of our last episodes, we talked about the kauna, the hidden meaning behind everything. So, yeah, I thought it was amazing. But I want to talk more about supporting local. But before we do that, we need to get to know you a little bit.
Okay.
And I want to know, you know, where you're from, where you were raised, where you grad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always the question.
Yeah.
Where did you graduate? It's so funny because we were talking about that. Like, if you go to the mainland and you ask, oh, where did you graduate? People talk about college, right?
Yeah.
But when you're in Hawaii and you say,
That's a
where
good
did you
point.
graduate? It's
Yeah.
like, no, we're talking about high school.
Everybody
and that's
knows
all that
what
matters.
you're talking about. Yeah.
So that's so
good
funny.
point.
But my name is Kailee Freitas. I was born and raised on Oahu. I graduated from Kamehameha and
Imua.
Yeah, Imua. And then I went to Oregon for college, and I actually went to pursue teaching. So from the time I was really little, I wanted to be a teacher. My mom was a teacher. All of my aunties are teachers. And I mean, from probably the time I was 5, I wanted to be a teacher. And so I went to college. I pursued teaching. I graduated in 4 years, and that was it. Like, I was like, okay, I'm set for life. Like, now I can, go into my forever career. And so I came back home. I started teaching that same year, right after I graduated, and I loved it. And I was just like so set. And then my husband and I got married, and Mahina Made was like never in my like radar of things. I never even had an inkling of wanting to start a business or do any of this. Like, I just wanted to be a teacher. And so I started teaching, and we got married, and everything was great. And then we wanted to have kids, right? That's always like the next thing. And so it didn't happen. It was really hard for us. And that was so not expected for me, because like nobody talks about like that being a hard thing, right? And so it didn't happen. And then after a few years, I ended up doing in vitro. So I was like 25, I think, when I did it. And we got pregnant. And everything was okay. And then about halfway through the pregnancy, we ended up losing the baby.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it was like, it just threw me for a loop, because everything in my life up until that point, I had planned to do it. I was like very intentional in what I wanted. And then I did it, right? And that's just kind of what you think life is going to be like. And then this happened. And so we just set this into like this spiral of grief and depression. And then about maybe like 5 or 6 months after it happened, God just like told me, okay, it's time to like heal. It's time to get, on with your life. And so I just love being creative. I think it comes with being a teacher. And so we made like this doormat, and it says Aloha lives here on it. And at the time I had never really seen anything like it. So we made it. I posted it on like my personal Instagram. And then all of my friends and family were like, oh my gosh, you should sell this. You should make it like an Etsy store. And I'm like, no, I just did it for fun. But, we were thinking, okay, we had so much fun making it for ourselves. Like, we can make it for our family or whatever. So I created Mahina Made on Etsy. We're just selling these custom doormats. And then people were buying them. And I just like found so much joy in that at that time, where it was just like for fun. It was Mahina Made, but it was a very different Mahina Made.
Yeah, it was out of your garage, out of your car.
Just like being cute. Like, I don't really care what this means, like it just brings me joy at this time.
It was kind of like a coping mechanism.
No, exactly. It was like what I needed at that time was just like a healing, something to heal, and just like to get creative outlet. And so that's what it was. And then I got like bored with doormats, so we started doing like bags, but everything was like custom. It was like your typical craft fair, like your old school kind of vibe. And so that's what we did. And then we just like grew and grew, and then I ended up having kids. So I have 2 boys now. Woo. Yeah. So this is like in the span of like 4 years, all this has happened. And now I actually left teaching, which is like so crazy. I never thought that would happen. And I'm doing Mahina Made full time, and I have this market now, and life is very different than I originally envisioned.
That's
but it's
crazy.
crazy.
Well, you were adaptable, and you taught on your. I have a hard time saying that without a pidgin accent. You thought you thought you thought on your toes. These teas, sometimes gets us. But it's so cool to see you come out on the other side, because a lot of times, like you say, you can spiral, and sometimes you spiral into this depression, and it's hard to get out of it.
Right. Yeah.
But because you found something to kind of put that energy into something else to really lift you up, and I'm sure you had a great support system as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And now you turned something, what could have been something very devastating, into something beautiful.
Yeah.
And that is bringing joy to a lot of people.
I mean,
I think that's amazing.
Like, even when I say it out loud, you know, it's like hard to believe what can happen. You know, it's just like being open to literally anything.
Yeah.
Is even like the market, you know, it's just all these things that I never planned in life, just kind of come.
Yeah. So you just started Mahina Made during the pandemic.
No, so actually Mahina Made started, well, it technically started like how you're saying in the garage. Like
Yeah.
that kind of
So when all that was happening.
That was like 2017.
That was 2017.
So it was,
but it wasn't like how you're doing it now.
Yeah, no. So that was how like Mahina Made is now. Pretty much kind of started when I started having kids.
Okay.
It just like something in me shifted, and then Mahina Made shifted, and
yeah,
you know.
I wonder if that happens, because I know like with fighters or athletes, you know, once they have a kid, you know, it's like they kind of lose their spark, and then once they have something to fight for, it's something shifts, and they have like this second win. Yeah. So I'm not a father yet, so I'm sure I'll experience that one day. But that's really interesting. Yeah. So what was the inspiration behind leaving your full-time job as an educator and then going into Mahina Made full-time and then Ho'omau Hawai'i Market? Because that's not an easy decision, you know, and a lot of people will look at you and think you're crazy. You're leaving this nice job. You probably I mean, teachers don't get paid as much as they should, but it's a steady income, right?
Exactly.
So, well, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, so it was during COVID, when, I mean, everybody was just, you know, struggling, and I think it was everywhere, especially like teachers, and just the school environment was so different. I mean, trying to teach in a pandemic to little kids, it was so hard. I mean, first we did the distance learning, which is new for everybody, and so that was just
that distance learning, is that like socially distanced or on Zoom?
Yeah, so good point. So that is on Zoom.
Okay.
So like that's how we had to start, and I was teaching 4th grade at the time when the pandemic started, and it was so hard. I mean, there was no introduction, right? We were just thrown into this, okay, you're going to be at home and I'm going to be at home, and we're going to teach over this computer. And I just had my second son at the time. So I had a newborn at home, and I had a 2-year-old at home, an almost 2-year-old. He wasn't even 2 yet.
Terrible. And
so I'm trying to, so it was like having them at home and trying to teach online. Like, so that started. And then it was okay though, because we were all like trying to navigate this new kind of way of learning. And then we went back to school finally, and having to like keep them socially distanced, you know, it's just like, it was so much pressure, and school should be like, I feel like it's a place where learning is important, but socializing is equally as important, and learning how to interact with people and sharing and working in a group, and all of that was just like taken away. And it was so hard. I mean, for me, but just for everybody. Like, you ask any teacher, I guarantee you.
Oh, no, I totally can imagine how difficult it would be. I mean, I taught English for 3 years in Madagascar when I was in the Peace Corps. So I have such a huge respect for teachers. It's definitely not easy, and just grading papers alone. I'm not sure how many papers you grade for 4th grade, but just that is so... And trying to keep people's attention span is one of the hardest things, because like, these are kids. Like, remember when you were a kid, like you didn't want to be in school,
their
right?
attention span's like 3 seconds. They
want to be TikToking and playing Fortnite and whatever else they're doing these days.
So take all of that and having to do it in like a distance learning way, where it's like they could be watching TV, you know, like they could be sitting in front of the computer, but behind them the TV's playing, or, you know?
I'm sure I've done that in meetings.
Exactly, right? You turn the camera off, nobody knows, but so it was so hard. And then, you know, I mean, teachers, I say, but kids, it was hard, you know. Parents, it was really hard, because they had to, you know, when they're distance learning at home, they have to either find childcare. It was just like, it was so hard. And it was, and then me having my kids at home, it just like made me think. And I had Mahina Made at the time, and we were pretty successful. And so I was kind of at the point, anyways, like pandemic aside, of, you know, what am I going to do with my time now that I have 2 kids? Teaching is a full-time career, and Mahina Made, like, there's just not enough hours in the day, you know, and I was just burnt out in general. And so I kind of had to decide, and the pandemic kind of helped me to decide. And so this past year, I spent literally the whole year going back and forth about what am I going to do, right? Because how you're saying, like, teaching, it might not pay the most, but it's a career and you are guaranteed X amount of money. You're guaranteed these certain benefits, right? And if you go off on your own, you're not guaranteed anything.
Yeah.
And that was so scary, especially now that I had my kids and, you know, I have like my parents' generation and my grandparents, like especially my grandma, she had a hard time understanding, like, you're going to do what? You know, like, but what about teaching? You know, you get paid and you get these benefits, you get health benefits, like,
and it's
sure?
like it's a family thing, right? It's been in your family for years.
Then like everybody in my family are teachers. And so my husband and I talked about it. And so I just like got to the point where I just felt like, okay, I'm not leaving. I'm not saying I'm leaving teaching, but I'm saying I'm taking a break to kind of see, you know, what I should do going forward. And so I decided that this year I'm technically, I mean, I am a former teacher and that I'm not teaching this year, but I'll never say I won't go back.
Okay.
Because I do love it.
Yeah.
So I took a break for this school year and I'm doing Mahina Made full time. And then I'm home with my kids, which I love because they're so young and they're only going to be young once. You know, everybody says it and they're like, oh, they're going to grow up so fast. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. But now that I'm in this phase, I'm like, no, they do grow up so fast. You know, it's like crazy.
My brother's kids or kid. Yeah. And
even like during the pandemic, it's like nothing happened during the pandemic, but they somehow grew up so fast. And so I'm just so thankful to have this time with them. And so, yeah, I was just like, okay, now that I'm not teaching, like, I really need to figure out what I'm going to do with this business. And it's so hard because you don't go to school to, like, start a business, you know? And so it's just, like, learning as I go. And there's just so much vulnerability in that. And it's just crazy. And so I enjoy change, though, because I just like to do new things. And so it's been a fun challenge. And like I was saying earlier, the support local movement is just so huge. And so to get the support from like the community is just helps me to like know that I'm on the right track. Kind of with that.
And Mahina Made has grown its credibility and success over the last couple of years as well. So you had that platform which you could kind of segue into the market, right? And I don't know if people can see on YouTube or wherever we post this, or just go to their Instagram, Mahina Made. They have these Pua Kenny Kenny t-shirts.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like printed as if you were wearing a lei. So beautiful. One of the most beautiful shirts I've seen here in Hawaii. I actually saw it for the first time at a friend's baby shower. They were tie-dyeing some of it.
Oh, really?
So I asked, where are those shirts from? And they told me Mahina Made. And that's when I first heard of the name. And then went to the market and I was like, oh, that's the shirt I saw.
Yeah.
And then somebody told me that the owner of that put on the whole market. And then that's how we're here.
Yeah. And the rest is history.
Yeah. So that's a very brave thing for you to do. So I just want to commend you on that, first of all.
Thank you.
And then now I want to talk about supporting local and what's the difference between, you know, locally owned, Hawaiian owned, Hawaii owned, Hawaiian owned, whatever it is, because I think there are nuances within that we can, we should talk about just so people can understand really what that is. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so tricky. You know, I just feel like there's no black and white in that space. And I certainly don't think I'm the person to say like, no, this is this category and this is this category. But one thing for the market that I didn't really think about until I started it and people started applying for it is because like the point of Ho'omau Hawai'i Market specifically is to support businesses that perpetuate Native Hawaiian culture, and that is different than like local culture, you know.
And what is that difference?
Like, so, and see, like, that's like so tricky. So this is my difference. And I won't say it's the difference because it can be, you know, it's perspective, I think, is a lot of it. But for me, it's like our local culture is like your spam musupis, you know, shaka, slippers, things like that people from the outside, like from, you know, other places, when they think of Hawaii, that's what they think of. Like when they come here and they go to ABC store, the things that they find in the ABC store, they might think is Hawaiian.
Hawaiian shirts. That's what they say.
Right.
It's aloha shirts if you're listening to this. Aloha shirts.
Yeah, and pineapples, right? That
Yes,
one is a huge one.
Pineapple pizza. I had a
my
friend that was coming here, and he's like, yeah. I asked him, oh, what do you want to eat? What do you want to try? And he said, oh, I want to
Hawaiian pizza.
I want to have something like local, something Hawaiian. And he said, yeah, I really want pineapple pizza. And I thought he was saying it as a joke because we were texting.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you serious right now?
And he's super serious.
And he was serious.
I know. It's crazy. Oh,
I'm just like, you have so much to learn.
I know, exactly. Like pineapples and pineapple pizza. I do not like that. But
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I'm very neutral on that.
But it's crazy because they actually call it Hawaiian pizza.
I know, right?
It's like, what?
It's marketing.
I know, totally. So yeah, there's just like that difference. And I think so that was interesting for me because for this market, I put out like an application and people applied because we only have a certain amount of spaces. And so we had to do it that way. And a lot of the applications that we were getting on the application, it kind of asks, what do you sell that is reflective of Native Hawaiian culture? And a lot of people put like, oh, well, we have spam musubi printed, pillows, or we have pineapples on our bags or, things like that. And I was like, wow, this is not only an outside issue of like people who aren't from here or who don't live here, this is a everybody kind of a thing. And then it was so hard for me because, so that was so most of the market I planned myself, everything, the logistics, but choosing vendors is something that I didn't want to only do myself because I feel like, who am I to say, this is Hawaiian and this is not Hawaiian?
Yeah.
Like
and we have our own biases.
Right,
well,
exactly. Right? And so I was like, that's not fair of me to be the end all be all of what is Hawaiian. And so that was one thing I don't do myself, but that was just like interesting in what people thought would qualify as being a Hawaiian product or a Native Hawaiian reflective kind of product.
Yeah,
and
it's crazy. And that's coming from locals as well,
yes.
right?
I mean, it's all locals because you have to be a local business to be in this market.
Yeah,
and so it's super interesting. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say about it other than,
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I'm thinking is that there's a locally made and then there's Hawaiian made. And right. I think we just kind of have to differentiate the two, where it's like, if just because you're from Hawaii or you live in Hawaii doesn't mean you're Hawaiian.
Exactly, yeah.
If you're born here, you have the blood. If you don't have to speak the language, but it has more to do with blood. That's why I don't know if you ever heard the term cocoa over local.
Yes, I
cocoa
actually
is the Hawaiian word for blood.
Right.
And I love that phrase.
Yeah.
So I think people really don't understand that just because they're not educated enough on it from what they see on social media and just movies and TV shows growing up, especially people outside of Hawaii.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's the same thing like if you're from California, you're Californian,
exactly.
right? So if you live in Hawaii, if you're from Hawaii, you're not Hawaiian.
Yes.
So I guess like stuff like that makes it confusing.
Yeah. And I think the other part of it is people, like some people can feel entitled because they've either lived here for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, they have like cut your rewards card.
Right, they've done something. And so actually I kind of experienced that in the market where, and the market, like Ho'omau Hawai'i Market, its sole mission is to perpetuate Native Hawaiian culture. And like right below that, we obviously want Native Hawaiian owned businesses, first and foremost, but it's not only for Native Hawaiian owned businesses. And I think that there's a space, I think like so this is my personal opinion, is that if we want like our culture to really thrive, we need to just like be inclusive and accepting of people who are authentic in trying to learn about a culture, especially that is not their own. I think that's huge, And so I actually know, so I know like a few local business owners who are not Native Hawaiian by blood, but you wouldn't know it in the things that they do. And I think that's just so amazing. And so I actually reached out to them for our first market and I was like, hey, I'm putting together this small market. I told them about it and I said, would you like to be a vendor? And they turned me down because they didn't want to take the space of a Native Hawaiian owned business. you know.
That's amazing.
And I just thought that I was just so blown away because, you know, like that was just spoke volumes to me about what they want for this culture that is not their own. Like they're trying to learn about it. They're trying to perpetuate it in a super authentic way, but yet not overshadow people who are just born into being Hawaiian, you know? And then on the other hand, at the market itself, I had people come up to me like after they saw how successful it was, they said, oh, well, how can I be a vendor here? Do I have to be Native Hawaiian? And I said, well, no, but, you know, we give preference, you know, to people who are. And they were like, well, I've lived here for 60 years and I paint plumeria flower paintings.
Entitlement.
And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, and it was just a space that I didn't expect to be in because I'm just like, who am I, you know, to say you can be this and you cannot be this. And so that was pretty uncomfortable for me.
Yeah, I bet.
And so it's just such a tricky space. And I don't want to be in that space for this market. I just want this market to just be a place for people who love true, like how you're saying, true and authentic Hawaii. Like that's what this market is for.
And I think it's a place to learn as well, because when you see the type of businesses there and what they stand for, you hear the meaning behind why they started the businesses and what you're buying. It hits you differently. Yeah,
the education, that is so true. Yes.
So just because you're not in the classroom anymore, I feel like you can still educate people.
I know,
and like
I'm gonna forever be a teacher.
You're always going to be a teacher and a learner no matter what. Yeah. And that's just something that you learn in life, you know, no matter how old or young you are. So that's super cool. So it is pretty competitive to get into that Ho'omau market. But what if somebody invited you to a podcast and they have their own business and they wanted to be in the market? Would you give them the first cracks at getting into the market?
Is this like a biased opinion? I mean, is this like a rhetorical question?
I'm just asking, you know, for a friend.
Asking for a friend. That's like the go-to line. Asking for a friend.
So I actually wanted you. I brought you here today because I had to.
There's ulterior motives in why
I'm just
here.
joking. I'm totally joking. But no, it's really awesome. And I hope the next one that you have, a lot of people will go out and check it out because it really is a special place. And definitely go check it out. So you seem like a very busy person. You know, you are your mother, your wife, you have these businesses. How do you balance everything from family to work and even your personal life? Or you don't?
I mean, okay, so everything in my life kind of stems from being a teacher. So everything that I do in life is like something I learned from being a teacher. And
are you a list person?
I love lists.
Okay.
I will literally create a list, and then if I've done something else during the day, I will add it to that list just so I can cross it off.
I do love lists. It feels empowering when you just check something off.
It feels so good. So I will add something and then immediately just cross it off. Yeah. And I'm like, it feels so much more accomplished.
Yeah.
But so lists, I love lists. And then, I mean, being a teacher, you have to be flexible, you have to be organized, you have to time management. And so all those things,
leadership.
Yeah. So I just take it into my life. I have a planner that I live by.
I love planners too.
And just like, I think what helps is I'm so passionate about everything that I do. And so I know like me time and self-care time is super important. But like, because I just love everything that I do, that is like kind of my me time.
It doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
There's
such
like
a great saying is something like,
be.
if you love your job or something, it doesn't feel like work or something like that. I don't know what the exact quote is, but I'm like, that's where I'm at. And so if you ask me the last time I watched a full movie, I have no idea. The last TV show I watched, I don't even know. And before kids, I was like Netflix, binging all day long, but it's like those things, and I don't feel like, oh my gosh, I haven't even got to watch TV.
You don't have FOMO?
No, I don't. And it's just crazy. I don't know. I'm just so passionate about everything that I do. And so even though it fills up literally from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep, it's just so fulfilling that I just like find balance. And like my support system 100% is like why I can do these things. I mean, like my husband is a realtor, so we kind of get to both create our schedules. And so we just figure out what works for us and our kids. Our oldest son is in preschool, so we kind of just have the one at home, our younger one. And then our families are just awesome in helping us with them. And so It is a village. It takes a village to do all of this, but it's so worth it.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing about being from Hawaii is that we're really family oriented and everybody kokuas and helps out with the whole family. So
so even our market, like our market is run by my family. So
really?
When you go to it and all the volunteers, everybody working the market is my family.
Awesome.
And so I think that's
family run, family owned.
And I think that's like different, than other spaces that you go to, and it just creates this environment of like we are all family. Like everybody that comes, and I think how you're saying you can just kind of feel it when you're at the market.
Definitely.
And in the feedback we've gotten, that was like a lot of it. It just feels fun to be there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you created that, so that's something to be proud of. Yeah. That's awesome. So, what do you think is your greatest accomplishment, and what would you want to accomplish next?
My greatest accomplishment, well, first and foremost, would be having kids, because
that is pretty amazing.
Because none of this would have happened, like if and that's the thing about me, is one of my like traits, and it has its good and bad, is if I want something, like I am going to do it, and so this all started with me wanting to have kids, right? And I just like kind of tunnel vision almost, which is not good in certain ways because you neglect other parts of your life, when you just like focus on one thing. But I was so focused on that, having kids, and then, like I didn't think about literally anything else. And so I wasn't open to anything else happening in my life. So even if this idea came up sometime during that, of like, starting a business, I just would have pushed it aside. And so now that I have kids, I'm like, that was a huge accomplishment because that was what I wanted from the very beginning. And so like infertility and trying to have kids when it's not easy is honestly the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And for that reason, I'm so proud of it, because it's like, physically, mentally, emotionally, it's so draining. And so that was way harder than even like starting a business, or starting this market. So that for sure is like my biggest accomplishment that I'm most proud of.
It's awesome.
And then just the strength that came from that is what I need to like do this to a business and do this to market. And what I hope to come next is, honestly, I don't even know. Like, I'm so open and I'm just so floored at where I'm at right now that it's...
You're still taking it in.
Yeah, it's like hard to like see where I want to go, and I'm already surprised. I'm already past where I want it to be, so it's like, I don't know. I don't know where...
Just take it day by day.
Yeah, and I think my next thing is I for sure want this market, because I just love how it supports other people. And I think that's so important about like small business community. And it's just part of Hawaiian culture, is just the uplifting others. And the community that has come out of this market, I think is so huge that I definitely want to see where this market can go in the next year. Yeah.
Do you think you'll go to different islands?
And so that's actually weird that you said that, because somebody mentioned that to me at this last market, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't even know. But it was crazy because people from Outer Island came for this market, and they were telling me, and I'm like, you're kidding me. You flew here from Kona just for this market. And they were like, yeah. And I'm like, wow, I was just speechless. Yeah. I'm still speechless. I don't know what to say, but yeah, that would be super cool to do like
even to have one maybe in somewhere like California or Vegas, and bring the Hawaiian-owned businesses to that space.
Yeah.
I think that would be pretty cool as well.
I think that's a huge, definitely.
Have you heard of the Enneagram? Oh. It's kind of like a personality test, like
I've heard of it, but I haven't done it.
Okay.
What is that?
It's like a personality test. It gives you a description of what you are. You take a test.
Oh, okay.
I feel like you'll be a 1.
I want to do it. How do I do it?
I'll show you. I'll send you a link. My sister's super into it. She got us all into it. When I was in Peace Corps, I got my friends into it.
And you feel like it's pretty accurate?
I think it's the best one. It's very accurate.
Okay, I want to do it.
So yeah, how you are organized, very dedicated. And I feel like that's a 1. I could be mistaken. I'm not super familiar with the Enneagram, but from what I hear from you, I'm pretty sure that's a 1. So we got to do it after this. I'm a 9. I'm a peacemaker.
Oh, peacemaker.
I'm a peacemaker, yeah. Just want everybody to be happy and keep the peace.
Yeah.
But it's cool because you have these wings. So sometimes you're like a 9-wing one because you have tendencies to be organized or like, very, I don't know, dedicated to something, or you're an achiever because you're really driven and whatever. And then maybe you're an 8 at sometimes because you're a challenger. You kind of go against the grain. So you're always changing, and it gives you a definition of how you are in growth and how you are in like when you're bad. So you have different levels of it. Yeah, so very interesting.
I gotta do this.
Yeah, go check it out. I think they have an Instagram page too where they post like daily stuff about
each
your
number
type.
or whatever. Ooh.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's get into Instagram questions, okay? Because we're kind of already on the topic of business, and this question comes from _Momi.
Okay.
It's M4Ms _ Momi.
Okay.
And she wants to know, do you have any plans to expand your business, like selling in stores? So I think she's talking about Mahina Made.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was doing wholesale in a few local stores on Oahu and other islands. But during the pandemic, I don't know if you heard about supply issues, but it was so hard to get things.
Everything's backed up.
Everything's delayed. And so I couldn't even keep up stock in Mahina Made. And so the wholesale, unfortunately, was the thing that had to go because I couldn't fulfill Mahina Made. How could I fulfill other stores?
So where do you sell it?
So when I was in stores, I was in Fighting Eel on Oahu, Pilikana, which is on the Big Island, Olivia Claire's on the Big Island, Kaila.
Yeah, I think some of them are Hawaiiverse vendors.
Oh, really? Yeah. And then a couple on Kauai. So I was on Work It Out Kauai. I can't even remember, honestly. Oh, Ohana Shop. Ohana Shop.
Okay, cool. So do you want to have your own store in the future? Is that the goal?
Right now it's not. Me personally, what I love about my business is kind of the flexibility and the freedom that it gives me for time. And I don't know where e-commerce and shopping is going to go in the future. I don't know if a brick and mortar and commercial rent is like so expensive.
Yep.
But I just feel like e-commerce is kind of where it's at.
Yeah, well, that's what we're getting into. We want to become the Amazon of Hawaii.
Right. And I just feel like, I don't know if malls will become obsolete in stores. I hope they don't, because I do love in-person shopping. And when you need a gift like that day, but right now I love the e-commerce space. I'm kind of trying to further explore how I can expand in this space.
So are you into digital, like the digital market, like crypto and all that stuff too?
No, but everybody's telling me about it, and I'm like, should I be learning about this stuff?
Well,
like
if you
Bitcoin?
believe that we're going to go into a digital age, I feel like that's
Are you into it?
I'm learning.
You are?
I'm not super into it. I just learn from or hear stuff from friends. And my brother's really into it. And so he tells me, oh, you got to buy this and follow this and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, it would be cool if I had money to put into it, right?
Yeah, I know. Honestly, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
But
that's also something cool to learn about.
Yeah.
Because I do believe that it is like the future.
Yeah.
If I had more money and time to put into it, I would.
Yeah. But it is like you don't just like throw money. You have to kind of learn about it,
do the
right?
research, talk to people,
Yeah.
But it can be very profitable. And, just like with regular banks, it's like how you say malls might become obsolete. These regular banks with, I don't know, point something 002 interest.
Yeah.
And savings accounts just aren't very, I don't know, good anymore. So when you put it into crypto or stocks, you get a higher percentage. Yeah. It's more risky, but you can build a lot more interest
and back.
Yeah, so I don't know, something to look. I don't want to talk too much about it because I feel like I'm not educated enough in it to be giving advice. So yeah, do your own research.
Yeah. Well, my husband is pretty interested in it. Me, that's just like not my thing, like stocks and stuff. I don't know. It doesn't interest me. Mm-hmm. And that's like it's like if I'm not interested in something, it's then like
but when you are, you go full into it.
Yeah, I do. I kind of obsess over it.
They say when you don't work a 9 to 5, you work a 24/7.
Exactly.
And that's the life of an entrepreneur.
I saw that meme and I'm like, that's me.
Yeah, it definitely spoke to me as well.
Yeah, I mean, you've done crazy things too.
Yeah,
Achieved a lot.
I'm similar in when I want to accomplish something, then I don't stop until I accomplish
Yeah.
it. Just like with when I paid off my student loans,
Yeah.
that was a crazy time, and I was just laser focused. Like,
Yeah.
nothing was gonna stop me. If I have to work every single day, all day, every day, I would do it.
But then when it pays off, you're like, feel
Yeah.
so awesome about it.
Once you accomplish what you set out to accomplish, like for you was to have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get that thing that you really wanted, oh, it's such a special
Yeah.
feeling. And to me, it has happened twice in my life. Once was when I got accepted to the Peace Corps, because after I graduated, all I wanted to do was join the Peace Corps. I didn't care. I didn't want to do anything else. I knew I wanted to help and serve in a foreign country. So when I got that email, I remember just breaking down, and then I called my mom crying. It was just the greatest feeling ever. And then the second was when I paid off my student loans, and then it just like all the emotions just kind of come at you at once. It's like, I worked so hard. I put so much time and energy into this, and to see it fulfilled, in the way that I wanted to do it, it's such a great feeling. And I hope everybody gets to feel that one day in whatever they do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so cool. Okay, so we got this next question. This comes from mokulehua.hi. I'm gonna guess she. I don't like to just assume things, but I feel like Mokulehua is either a last name or... I'm just gonna say this person, Mokulehua wants to know, why are you so amazing?
Wait, is this? This is not live. Never mind. Nobody can answer me. But if you listen to this later, are you home?
Maybe you can phone a friend.
I wonder. Wait, can I look her up?
I'm not sure. Well, I'm going to expand on this question a little bit more, because I wanted to have this question on because I'm sure this person knows you, or maybe they're just a fan of you. So that's why I wanted to ask you.
Okay, I think this is Hope, who runs a local business. So I'm going to give her a shout out.
Go give her a shout out.
is her small business. She's a vendor at Ho'omau Hawai'i Market, and she's the Yeti queen. So I have this Yeti here. I'll show it on the YouTube. So watch YouTube.
Is that a tea leaf?
Yes. So she makes Yeti.
That's beautiful.
She's like the Yeti queen, and she makes patches and pins, and she is equally as amazing.
Okay, so I was right. She.
Yeah.
Okay, but don't assume. Don't be like me. Because you know what happens when you assume.
It's like when you assume people are pregnant. It's like, no.
Never ask that. Never. Especially as a guy. Never, 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 never. Okay, so she wants to know, why are you so amazing? But I want to expand on that a little bit.
Okay.
Because I wanna know, what do you think are the qualities in a person that makes them, quote unquote, amazing?
Or what do I think make people amazing?
So why are you amazing, and what do you think makes someone amazing for someone to be like, why are you so amazing?
Oh, okay. What I think makes people amazing, I think it's when people are just authentic and they are just passionate about something. I think that's just so amazing when you're true to yourself, and because that's also a journey, is finding who you are. And I didn't know like who I actually was, and kind of until now, now that I'm at this place, like I just feel so good in like what I'm doing. And it's just, I think that I am so inspired by people who, when they talk and in what they do, they just seem so authentic and just so true. Like kind of how I was talking about people who are not Native Hawaiian but want to see Native Hawaiians thrive. Like I think that is so amazing. And it's just authenticity, I think, is very huge.
Yeah. And it sounds like someone that they know they're secure in themselves, and they know exactly what they want, and they're not afraid to ask for it or like go for it.
And being authentic, but also being willing to learn,
Be vulnerable.
And not seeming like you know everything. I think all of that is just amazing.
Yeah, so that is why you're amazing. I'm guessing.
I try to be those things.
Yeah.
And teaching has taught me a lot of that, and so I'm so grateful. So whether I go back to teaching or I don't, I am just so grateful, because the life lessons that I've learned from being a teacher truly just set me up to do these other things.
That's awesome.
Even being a mom, you know.
what I learned from teaching is if I don't want to teach, I just put my laptop in front of them and I play a movie. That's also such a good technique.
Yeah, exactly. Go color. Here's some coloring pages.
Yeah, it's funny when you're on the opposite end of it. So, you know, when you grow up and you see these people in positions of power, whether that's a teacher, a coach, a mentor, and then you become, it shifts. You grow up, you become that person whom you thought was this amazing person, and then you're in that position and you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. You realize how little you know, but to these young people, they're looking up at you and they're thinking, wow, this person is the smartest person ever, they know everything. And I remember feeling like that at sometimes, almost like an imposter syndrome, right? Like, should I even
fake
be
it
here?
till you make it.
I agree.
And that's what you have to do with teaching. Like, you are so many things beyond being a teacher. You're an actor. Like, how many times have I been like, I don't even know how to do this? Like, have the manual on the side, trying to teach them, like, okay, this is how you do this math problem. It's like crazy. To be everything.
Do you have any funny teaching moments where like you said something incorrectly? Like, I remember, when I was teaching Madagascar, we have to speak Malagasy. And when we get to site, we're still new and learning the language. So I remember saying something and it meant like something poop or whatever, but I thought it was saying something else. And people were laughing. I'm like, why are they laughing? And then one of the students told me. So it's a lot of funny moments. Being able to laugh at yourself and you know, being okay with being wrong. I think that's something that teaching has taught me.
Yeah, definitely. And so when I first started teaching, I was like, okay, I am the expert on everything. I am teaching these kids. And so I was like not open to them telling me like, no, you're wrong, right? But then like years later, I had to kind of realize that I don't know everything, right? And so I've had a couple of times where I've been like teaching something, and a couple of times they'll stop me in the middle because they're elementary kids. They have no filter, right? Which you got to love them for it. Yeah. They'll just like stop you in the middle and be like, no, Mrs. Freitas, actually you minus those numbers wrong or whatever it is. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'll go and correct it. But I actually had a couple times too where I had these like angel students where they would not correct me during the lesson, but after they'll like come up to me to save me the embarrassment and be like, Mrs.
These are
Freitas,
fourth graders? Wow.
Like, oh, Mrs. Freitas, you actually taught us that wrong. Like, this is how you're supposed to do it. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
I would have been like, I was testing you guys.
Yeah, exactly, right? Just put it back on them. Like, good job. Good catch. You were paying attention.
Yeah, that's the thing with, being in that position. You can always just have a scapegoat or just be like, just had a long day, mom brain or whatever, you always
love kids for that
always
reason,
have an excuse. Yes, kids. The kids that are really interesting are the very wise ones. Like, they would come, first, second graders, even younger, they'll say something to you that's just so deep and profound. And you're like,
how old are you?
Yeah, where did you learn that?
Yeah.
It's like, sometimes when the wind blows and it's cold, this makes you think about life.
Yeah.
Why are you saying this? Yeah, like, am I cold-hearted? Like, it's crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah. I mean, kids are just full of surprises.
Yes, definitely. And I'm sure you've have a lot of funny, awesome moments with yours. So every episode we do a local business shout out, and then when the episode comes out, we pair it with a giveaway. And this local business, we're shouting out Mahina Made, and you're giving some gifts for our listeners. So can you tell them what they're gonna be winning if they enter the giveaway? Yes.
So we have our newest print we just came out with is our Naupaka print.
Yeah, it's a beautiful bag.
And so the bag actually is for the Ho'omau Hawai'i.
I was looking at the bag.
So our Naupaka print, this is from Mahina Made, so we have like a 2-part giveaway. So we have a pareo, and then we have a matching bucket hat with the same print.
Yeah, beautiful. And it says Mahina Made.
Yeah, nice. It has our logo on it. And so that part of the giveaway is from Mahina Made. And then the other part is, so part of the market, what we do is we give a VIP tote offer. And this is just like, it's limited and people can buy it. And basically it gives you certain perks at the market. So it gives you like early shopping time, discounts and things like that. And so part of the giveaway we're doing is one of the VIP totes. So it doesn't come with any of the perks because the market is done, but it's just the tote itself, which you could actually only get as part of that offer. So you're
limited edition.
Yes, you're going to be the one person who has this tote.
That's awesome.
and did not get it at the market. So we don't sell them. People, like, it's crazy. So many people ask if they can buy this tote online. And I'm like, it's just like a regular tote. But so our graphic, I just want to give a shout out really quickly to Punky Aloha. The artist is Shar, and she created this event graphic for us, which I just love so much. It just embodies everything that the market represents. And so we put that graphic on everything, including this tote. And people love the graphic, and so they want to buy this tote and you know, just on its own. So you can win one in this giveaway.
Exclusively here on the Hawaiiverse podcast.
Yeah.
Well, mahalo for giving that. I'm sure people are going to love that. So go and enter. By the time you're listening to this, the giveaway will be posted on Hawaiiverse. And yeah, go check out Mahina Made. They're doing awesome things, and they have beautiful, beautiful things.
Oh,
go snag one of those shirts. Do they come in men's sizes?
They don't, but you know what? People have been asking me, and I didn't really think that this was a men's.
Yeah, I think because it's a more of a feminine kind of thing. But you know, we're in different times right now. People just wear whatever.
Right, exactly.
There's no gender norms anymore. Yeah. But yeah, that if I were a woman, I'd be wearing that. You know, and I'm a man. I can still wear it if I want to.
Yeah.
There's no limitations here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, awesome. Mahalos. I want to know now, what is your vision for the future of Hawaii?
So actually, this is funny. I was talking to my husband about this. Now that we have our kids, right? That's kind of what do you want for? So what do I want for my kids and all of our kids? And I think we right now, Hawaii and Hawaiians are in this very crucial time of determining where our future is going to go, because there's so many issues, right, that Hawaiians have been facing in these last, for a very, very long time. But
and I feel like there's always a new one.
There's always a new one. And it's just very frustrating, but also very inspiring, because I personally am so inspired by the role models that we have in our lahui, who are just doing amazing things for people outside themselves. And I think that is so huge when you can do things that don't only benefit yourself, but you are benefiting people, like future generations, people you don't even know, people that don't even exist yet. You want better for them.
Yeah.
And I just want whatever they want. You know, the things that and I shouldn't even say they, but it's we want. I just want, I want Hawaiians to be acknowledged and to gain back like sovereignty. And what sovereignty looks like, I don't know, but I want my kids and all of our kids to live in a Hawaii where they can be proud to be Hawaiian and, learn all about our culture, and it just be everywhere. I want our culture to be everywhere. And I think that that's what I push through my business is I just want our culture to be everywhere, and all of the vendors at like Ho'omau Hawai'i Market, they're doing the same thing, and that doesn't necessarily look like how our culture looked hundreds of years ago, because I think you have to evolve in order to kind of stay relevant, and so that looks different. So that might look like a shirt with a lei on it. It might look like one of my best friends, she created this cloth diaper business with Native-Hawaiian prints on it. So it's just normalizing. Yeah, so it's just normalizing our culture in a way where it's just accessible to people. People can integrate it into their lives in very simple ways. And it's just everywhere. Like, I just want, in Hawaii and beyond, I want our cultures to just be mainstream and just be everywhere and be accessible. And I just want, I think one thing that I've struggled with in my identity as a Hawaiian is there's this, dilemma of too much Hawaiian and not enough Hawaiian.
Yes, I talk about it all the time. Like, what is Hawaiian enough?
Right, exactly. And it creates such an internal struggle for a lot of people, including myself. I'm always questioning, who am I to put out these products? Am I Hawaiian? My struggle, my part of that spectrum is, am I enough Hawaiian?
Yeah.
I'm not fluent. I did graduate from Kamehameha, but at the time when I was going there, my identity was not fully in being Hawaiian. It's like when you leave something, then you appreciate it. That's how I was. After I graduated, then I appreciate everything that I was given there. But I just want that whole stigma to just be gone, because I don't want that to be pushed on to like my one thing that I do want to share about my son, and he's actually really inspired me to move away from that stigma, is he's in preschool. So he's 3. And when we're applying him for preschool, we were going back and forth between, should we send him to Punana Leo or Kamehameha. Those are like our 2 top ones. And it was just, what did we want for him? And so we ended up at Kamehameha. And I was kind of like, my one concern was that he wasn't going to get as much immersed into the Hawaiian culture as he would at Punana Leo, right? Like they're fluent Hawaiian. But I am so inspired by what he is learning. His kumu is absolutely amazing. And the things that he comes home and he sings mele and he
does the pule,
he pules for us. And it's like the first time he did pule for us, I cried, because I was just like, it's wrong. He's saying things wrong. You know, his pronunciation is off. He's not saying the right words, but he is just going for it.
I love that.
And I love that. Just, you know, like the kauna behind that is just so huge to me, in that you don't have to be fluent. You don't have to know everything about every native plant. You don't have to know every mo'olelo to just go for it. And I think that is how we're going to thrive.
Yes. Oh, I love
as
that
a
so
lahui.
much.
It's just like wherever you are at is perfect. And that's still what I'm struggling with, is where I'm at is a perfect place, because I've always wanted to incorporate Olelo Hawaii into my house. That's like the one thing I want, is a Olelo Hawaii speaking home. But I'm not fluent, and so because I'm not fluent, I'm like, I cannot speak to my kids because I don't know everything. But just like now, because my son is doing this, I'm just going for it. So what I do know, you know, I'm like speaking to my kids, and they just pick it up so fast. And of course, our conversation in Hawaiian stops at a certain point because I don't know how to say anything else. But I just want that, you know, to be the norm. And when I go out, you know, like in public, I just want to be comfortable with like being able to speak the little that I do know, and not feel like, are people going to judge me because of how I look? Like if you look at me, you might not even know I'm Hawaiian, right?
I can tell by how you talk, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you talk like one local girl.
But I just want all
and the
of this.
not that many bracelets,
I
but
only have
yeah.
my Hawaii bracelet.
Okay, maybe add a couple more bracelets, and for sure.
I know, I gotta get the really thick one though. Yeah,
the anti bracelets.
Yeah, the anti one, exactly. But I just want that stigma of being like too Hawaiian or not enough Hawaiian. I just hope that is gone.
Yeah, I'm so happy you said that. I think that was a beautiful answer, and something that a lot of us relate to. And I think kids are so inspiring as well because of their fearlessness, you know.
Yes.
We're so self-conscious as adults. We fear judgment, we fear being wrong, so it prevents us from really, you know, going for things, and it stops us from like fulfilling our full potential. So to see them just going for it, saying things wrong, and even us learning from them, that's something that we can all learn, to know that you don't know, and that you can always learn. That's a very empowering feeling. So yeah, I think I've struggled with that as well, because I'm always chasing the sun. Just like I hate it when I'm not as tan, because I feel like I'm not Hawaiian just because of my skin, right? It's so dumb. Even though I speak the language, you know, I feel like if I'm not in the mala or the lo'i, I'm not pounding kalo and making poi. I'm only buying it from the store. I'm not Hawaiian enough. You see all these people on social media building rock walls and oling and you know, having the confidence to wear malos. And I had to wear malos when I went to school, but doing it as an adult, I'm like, no way. I'm not that confident in doing that. So to see people doing that and, you know, living their life as a true Hawaiian, or in the true Hawaiian ways, it's very inspiring. And just being able to like to have this conversation and recognizing it, becoming aware of it, is a great step to, you know, for us to take the next step and try to be like how we were back in the day. But yeah, so mahalo for sharing that. And going back to the Olelo Hawaii thing, I think it's never too late to learn. I think you can always learn no matter how old you are. It's better to learn as you're a kid because your brain's just a sponge. You pick up everything. I was very blessed to speak Hawaiian as my first language. My dad only spoke Hawaiian to us. I actually learned how to read by playing video games.
Really?
So I would always play video games and I would read the subtitles. I would play those long role-playing games. So I was better at English than some of my classmates. And I always think it's because of the video games.
Yeah.
You know, even like playing Pokemon on top of
people learn
Game
like
Boys.
English by watching TV, I think, and like, you know, Japanese people.
Yeah, exactly. And English is so prominent. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people think, oh, I don't want to teach my kid Japanese, Hawaiian, Spanish because they're not going to learn English. They're going to be behind.
Yeah.
And that's one of the knocks on Hawaiian immersion school. But I mean, I can speak English perfectly fine sometimes. Yeah, I speak very goodly. I don't know what they're talking about. But yeah, I think people just have to get away from that stigma of like I can't learn it. I'm too old. I'm not confident enough. I don't want to embarrass myself. All these things, and just go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's how, you know, we're going to thrive in the future is not to knock each other down, especially like within, you know, it's like when a culture has like judgment from like outside people, that's one thing. But when you're like doing that to your own people, like that's just like self-destruction.
Yes, that please people stop doing that. Especially other local businesses, like there shouldn't be this competition like, oh, they're doing what we're doing. No, we can all do the same thing and help each other, and whether they go to your business or somebody else's business, we're still supporting local.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it shouldn't be this competition or jealousy.
Yeah. And I actually think that, I don't know about other small business communities in other places in the world, but in Hawaii, that is something that I think is so cool, is you see like collabs and collaboration between small businesses all the time. And that's like so cool because that's truly showing like you're putting collaboration over competition, right? And I love, so at Ho'omau Hawai'i this past one, I mean, I don't know how they paired up with each other, but there were so many collaborations within vendors in the market. So that was like super cool, I think, for shoppers to be like, oh, this print
I bought
is
one of the
there.
puzzles.
Oh, Surf Shack.
Yes. I can say this because I bought a puzzle for my sister for a Christmas present, but this episode's coming out after Christmas. So you're not going to spoil. So I'm not spoiling anything. The beautiful picture of the wahine, she
was it?
It was like a portrait.
Was it Aloha de Mele?
Yes.
Which was also a
so
vendor.
Nice.
Yeah.
One of my favorite vendors over there.
Yeah. So super cool because I mean you see that kind of stuff everywhere. So so how you're saying, you know, within the small businesses lifting each other up, I love that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And it's cool that you gave them the space to do that. Okay, so we're going to start wrapping this up. I just have a couple more questions.
Okay.
What is your advice for aspiring entrepreneurs?
My advice is, I think before you start a business, you should kind of think about why you're starting it. If you're just starting it just to do it, starting a business is not easy. And so I think finding something you're really passionate about, finding a problem that you can solve or a way that you can make life better for others is always the best place to start, because that's going to fuel you when it gets hard or when you're confused or when you're a little bit burnt out. That will always be your pushing force, to help you move forward. So that's like a great place to start. And then always coming back to that in the journey, and just always kind of how we were talking about earlier, but just being authentic in what you do, and may let your business be an extension of yourself.
Yeah,
I think is huge. And with that comes vulnerability, which is hard. It's so hard to put yourself out there to people you don't even know. It's still very hard for me to do that. But yeah, just being authentic and being open to kind of what's out there and finding where you fit in that space. I think it's crazy. During COVID, so many businesses kind of popped up, which is super cool because I think people in that time had to fulfill their passions, right? And so they
just needed an escape.
Right. And so many businesses popped up. And I think that that's so great. And, where these businesses will go is it could go far, it could not. And I don't think that that's really the point. But I think finding your space and where you fit in this community of small businesses is important. Because I think there is, like how you're saying, there is space for everyone, but just finding where that space is.
And how you do it non-destructively and, without stepping on toes and, working to better the community, not just kind of like replace somebody.
Yeah, and always just finding a purpose that is bigger than yourself, I think is a great place to start.
Yeah, that's a great answer. So I hope if you're listening to this, you can take away a lot from what Kylie just said. That was awesome. Do you have any favorite local shops you like to support? Some favorite restaurants, some favorite products?
So it's
besides
great.
your own.
I know. People are like, "Oh, you're like always wearing lace shirts," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I get them at a pretty good discount." I know the owner. It's like all I can afford. But so crazy. Honestly, since the pandemic started, I've probably been to a restaurant like twice. Because first of all, restaurants and kids don't mix. Restaurants, kids, and a pandemic 100% do not mix. So we haven't hardly gone anywhere. But local shops that I love to support, I love all of the vendors, and I'm a little bit biased, but all of the vendors at our market I absolutely love. And it's what I love about the market is I got to learn about a lot of businesses that I did not even know about.
That's my favorite thing about
And I just
markets.
love that because they make beautiful things that I can go now for when I need gifts for people. So like how you're doing like you want to be the Amazon and the Yelp, for like local businesses. That is so huge because when you want to buy a gift, I think it's like, like you want to buy a gift, but you don't know what to get them and you don't know where to go. So you go to Amazon or you go to Target because they just have everything. So to have everything in one place, I think is going to be so helpful for people, especially for like gift giving. I'm sure
if you need to sell some things, just put it on Hawaiiverse.com.
Yeah. So is it you kind of, so people buy the products from you though? They're not buying it from these businesses.
Yes, so we have a fulfillment center. Basically a house. That's how you start off.
That's how, and
definitely. So we do consignment with the businesses. So if anybody listening to this wants to put their product on Hawaiiverse, and we have services, we have physical products.
And is it local businesses?
It's
or
all
like
local
Hawaiian?
businesses.
Local businesses.
All local businesses.
Cool.
However you define that.
Right.
Just because we want to support local and want to curate this space where, like you said, where do you go to support local?
Yeah.
When it's not a farmer's market. So, you have to go to like 10 different sites. But when we all have it in one place on Hawaiiverse, then you can just go there and say you want to buy shoes. You don't have just like 1 or 2 or 3 shoes, but you have like 3 pages, you have 10 pages of shoes from different local vendors.
And that's what people need is they need like ease, right? Like they can just go one-stop shop.
Yeah.
They don't have to think about what's that site again that I should go to.
Hawaiiverse.
Yeah.
Hawaii's universe,
cool.
the best places to support local. So go check it out. And I feel like I wanted to do something, and you know what it is? I wanted to shout out Shakati, one of my favorite businesses. They have the pineapple mint for us here, and you can try that. You can take home a case.
It's so good.
Super Ono Mamaki tea. Make sure you check them out. Mahalo to them for supporting our podcast. Plant-based, 0 calories, 0 caffeine, 0 sugars. It's just amazing.
It's delicious.
Yeah. All right. So do you have anything you want to share before we wrap up? Any final words?
No, mahalo for having me on here.
Yeah,
I'm super honored to be a part of your podcast.
Yeah, well, I'm honored that you're here and that you get to share your story with our listeners. And keep doing what you're doing. And I'm sure we'll be seeing the Ho'omau Hawai'i Market and Mahina Made around for a very long time.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
And I hope to see some men, maybe some maileles.
Yeah, no, actually, 2022.
Okay. I'm gonna stand in line to get that.
Okay.
Okay, so mahalo Kylie for joining us on the Hawaiiverse podcast. Check us out on Hawaiiverse.com, the best place to support local. Spread aloha, be kind to one another, and mahalo for listening to us today. New episodes every Thursday, so make sure you follow us and leave a review. I'm your host Kamaka, and you'll hear me next time on the Hawaiiverse podcast. Ahui ho.